I don't even know where to start with you guys right now, except for like, what the man?
Yeah.
I feel like my mind is blown. Okay. We're living in this crazy, bizarro world where tons of people are being released. So many different things are happening in the world of wrestling. But truly, when I saw your guys' name pop up on the old interwebs as people that were on this list of talent that was released, I just could not wrap my head around it. Have you guys wrapped your head around it yet?
I think even the night it happened, he was dropping me off at Newark Airport. So we were 5 minutes from the airport. I was going home 2 days early from visiting his family. And we got the phone call. And I just remember being like, are you serious? Like, are you serious? Like, and then it was funny because he got the call 5 minutes after. And the first thing he says to me when he looks over, he's like, thank God. He's like, thank God it's not just you. It's both of us at least.
Yeah. I mean, there was like,
go ahead.
It was like, it was unusual, but like, to be honest with you, like, I kind of felt like it was coming. I mean, just like, I felt like the situation could have been recovered with like the presentation on main roster. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like it could have been recovered. It's fiction. So like in a world of fiction, the possibilities are endless, but I was like, yeah, I had a weird feeling that night. Just on the debut, I was like, I kind of feel like this is the direction it's going in. So there was like a sense of disappointment, but there was also a sense of like relief as well, because like, you know, like as an artist, imagine like if you were a comedian, for anyone who's listening, maybe who's not exactly a wrestling fan or like hasn't done wrestling, you go on stage and then right as they're about to like drop your name in front of the crowd, the, you know, like person who owns the nightclub's like, hey, you can't use your best jokes, by the way. So go knock it out the park. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
It was crazy because like for weeks he was actually saying you just had a feeling. And I was like, no, there's no way. And I wasn't medically cleared yet. So we got let go immediately.
What were you out with?
Wait, what?
What were you out with?
Oh, here's the that's the whole thing. So I was having matches before Raw and SmackDown because they wanted me to wrestle. And after the second match, everything was going great. I get home that night and I look in the mirror and I'm like, one of these doesn't look like the other. Yeah. So I look in the mirror and I look at him and I'm like, is one of
your boobs?
Yeah, it was. I popped an implant and I had no idea. Yes. So the next day was NXT and I immediately go to medical. I'm like, hey, I'm not sure if I'm crazy. I'm not sure if it always looked like this. Like, maybe I was just tired. So I just went to bed. I'm like, that's, you know, with the adrenaline from wrestling, you don't even notice like certain things hurt all the time. So I didn't even think anything of it. But I went to medical and they were like, oh my God, yes, like one of your boobs is totally gone. He confirmed that.
No, not to laugh. I know it's not funny, but like, holy shit.
Holy shit. But I was like, okay, I can get the surgery and then I can manage, you know, I can be ringside. That's no problem. I just can't wrestle right away. But the plan was, I guess, for me to wrestle. So then they're like, when you're totally clear, we're going to have you wrestle. So they scrapped all the managing stuff at that point. And I was sitting at home for those last 4 months, just waiting.
Oh my God.
So I didn't think we were going to get released, but you had a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what was the feeling for you, like, Kevin? I mean, for you to be there and to be brought up to the main roster, just the way things kind of all unfold. I mean, I have a million questions, but like, what was sort of that feeling to you of thinking that was the other shoe was going to drop on that?
Well, so like the first, like, you know, when I went up and they asked me to do the match with Jeff and put him over, I was like, okay, this is different. Like, you know, sure, that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up a fan of Jeff, and then getting to meet Jeff and actually like him being really cool was like an awesome experience for me. He's literally one of the coolest people I've ever met. So I was like, that's fine. And I remember one of the agents came to me and they're like, hey, there's a long-term plan for this, so don't sweat it, don't worry. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I do my entrance and I get out there, and then the referee, I'm not sure if it was Danilo at this point, but the ref comes to me and he goes, your 10-minute match is down to 90 seconds.
Oh my God.
And you've never worked with Jeff before.
First time we're working on television. You know, we don't really know each other, like in the ring, you know, our rhythm.
Yeah.
So, and then like they come back from commercial and I'm trying not to laugh. If you go back and watch it, I'm smiling, you know, like closed mouth, trying to hold it back. And then they played his music, and I was happy Jeff got that. It's another story. But then as soon as Jeff got in the ring, I just snatched him and I just called what we needed to do, and that was it. But like when I went back to NXT the next day, I spoke with someone there, and I just said, I go, look, like my biggest fear right now, my biggest phobia is that there's a hole being dug for me. And I'm nervous that if I'm not permitted to crawl out of it myself and people absolve themselves of creating the situation, that, you know, I'm not going to be a return as an investment. I'm going to get fired. So like, what do you think I should do right now? Because part of this business is, you know, doing what you're told.
Going with the flow. And if they tell you to, you know, we're gonna make you a penguin. I want to be the best friggin' penguin like in the world. Then I'm gonna do the job.
Yeah. I mean, I was just like, how I felt about it. I was just like, my intuition intuitively was telling me that everything was off. Everything felt wrong. And I felt something bad coming like 4 months before it happened. I felt it, but everyone I would talk to was like, oh no, you know, everybody loves you. This is good. You have no problems, yada, yada. But I felt it coming, man. And I tried to, as professionally and politely as I could, talk to people in the chain of command about that.
And get the idea over. You do the best you could with what you were given.
But yeah, and I just tried to be a good sport about everything. So.
And why the change of character? Why would we go from, you know, Karrion Kross, but you were able to do it NXT, which was awesome. You two together, just absolute stars. And then, I mean, you know, there's always sort of that question of like going from NXT onto Raw or SmackDown and how characters change or whatever, but like you completely changed. What was that conversation like? And what was sort of the creative on that they wanted you to be?
Oh, I got an email with like what it was supposed to look like, and how like apparently the music was supposed to change, the entrance was supposed to change, and this was supposed to be like an enhanced, expanded version.
Evolving something that was already good to something different and better, and you know, just different. Like yeah.
And so like when I saw it, like the picture of it, I showed it to her. We were sitting on the couch, and I just started laughing, and I said, I could be comfortable wearing this, but this is not going to get over in 2021.
No, characters like that just don't work this day and age.
No.
And it's confusing too, because it's like, why is the music that I'm singing, it's still there, and then there's a mask there, but there's no explanation. So sometimes if there's just one promo to explain why all of a sudden you put a mask on, why is Scarlett still singing? But when there's no explanation, people feel like they had something taken away.
Yeah.
Versus if it would have been even a new song and a whole new presentation, people would be like, okay, this is new. But it just felt like maybe an amputated version of what it was.
It was like, it just basically came in an email, and it was just like, well, I look at it like this, like nobody wants a reputation of being difficult to work with. Nobody wants a reputation for being a mark for themselves or not wanting to do business. And here I am. For me personally, had the dream experience at NXT. Mm-hmm. I walked in there, my ideas were embraced. We collectively collaborated on stuff.
You were a star right off the jump. Like as soon as you guys showed up, it was like you guys hit the ground running, which was awesome, because a lot of times people sign in and you're kind of stuck there, you know, figuring shit out for a little bit, but you guys were working right away.
Thank you.
And thank you. And I just felt inclined as a professional to embrace these ideas that were being given me, because that's all I was getting in NXT. If I had an idea and I had something that I wanted to say, or I had an idea to contribute or something, it was always met with enthusiasm. Or if they thought the idea was not great, they would make it better. So I thought to myself, like, I kind of owe it to them to like engage them with this. But I mean, it didn't, like, this is where we are now. So
we were also ready when we signed up for WWE. We're like, we're trading creative freedom to finally be able to like have a steady income. We got our house because of WWE. We're so grateful even to have jobs during the pandemic, when people we knew, like I had family members who lost their jobs, and you knew people like that too. And people were struggling on the independent scene. So we're so grateful for anything we were given. So we try to take that perspective no matter what. We're like, it's not our money. And you know, like no matter what, we're gonna make the best of whatever it is. So that's how we try to take it.
But it's a two-way street. And that's the part that, you know what I mean? You don't have any control over. So
what were the conversations like? Were you talking to Vince about what his vision was for what you were doing versus, I'm assuming that it was mostly Hunter or Sean or Road Dogg, whoever you were talking to at NXT with the creative there? Like, what is sort of the push and pull from both ends of that, from the creative at NXT versus what Vince has for a vision of you?
Basically, like, they're just as it was explained to me, two separate entities. Like NXT really couldn't interfere or expand or like even be involved with anything that was going on for main roster from a creative standpoint. Because I was transitioning, there was like nothing that could be done. They just said, ask lots of questions.
It is very much two different brands.
Yeah.
As sure. Explained us, and we're ready for that. But I think we're just confident in our own abilities. Promo work, wrestling wise, we're like, we can get anything they give us over. But
yeah. Okay, so the decision to separate you guys, what went into that? Because I think that was like the other thing where it's like, okay, cool, you guys are on the main roster, but wait, Scarlett's not with them. Why? Like, you guys are such a dynamic duo. What did they explain any of that to you aside from obviously Scarlett? They wanted you to wrestle.
It was funny because they had us doing like main event matches. We did dark matches. They wanted to see everything. So I was joking with him the day I had to wrestle. I'm like, what if the match is too good and then they really like it and they want to separate us? That was one of my fears. He's like, no, just kill it. It's gonna be fine. I haven't wrestled in years. I was training at the PC, but I haven't had a match in years. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. And like, what if it's so good that they do separate us? And we're thinking it's gonna be fine no matter what. But that was a fear of mine. And I think the first match was really good. And immediately when they saw that I could
wrestle. Who did you wrestle?
Shotzi Blackheart, both times.
Awesome.
Yeah. Which I will say, yeah, nothing with the busted implant was her fault or anything. I don't know on what had happened. It could have even been a DDT or just falling forward. Like it could have been anything. So I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't anything.
Oh, it happens. I mean, I feel like that's something you hear about in the locker room all the time. I don't know how much of that ever gets out, but it's like booby down, SOS.
Yeah. I feel like people haven't talked about it as much, how often it happens, but even when I went to the doctor, they're like, oh yeah, we've done a lot of the girls who work there, whoever put implants. So it's usually very secret, but I wasn't afraid to talk about it, but I was told like, hey, it's probably better if you don't tell everyone what happened. But I'm not embarrassed by it. It's something that happened.
Yeah, it happens. What are you going to do? I mean, go in there and get that repaired and get the ladies back in action. We're back and fresh.
Back and fresh.
So what do you think is the feeling? I feel like everyone I talk to that, is in a similar situation as you guys is that sense of relief. What do you think that's about?
Well, I always make sure not to I've had like over 1,000 conversations like everybody has when this happens with people. And it's like, I always try to make sure that like, I don't accidentally come off like salty about anything because like, yeah, sure. Like I'm disappointed, but at the same time, like I try to keep stuff in perspective of like the experience that I had, the people that I met, the people I got to work with, what sort of life was afforded by working there. But I mean, also at the same time, like I can't bullshit people and pretend like the last couple months of my career there were not really bizarre. They were weird. And I was relieved because it was like, this is not the best version of myself as a performer. And my hands are tied. So, and that's kind of part of the deal. Mm-hmm. That's kind of part of the deal. And so I didn't really have any sort of sympathy for myself. And I wasn't like really bitter about the whole thing. I was just disappointed. And I was just like, I would love to make this work, but it's just not working. So I was kind of ready to just like move on in a way. And I don't mean that, and I don't mean that like, to sound like an asshole or something. I was grateful.
You came there to perform, and when it came down to even choose to be a wrestler, it was never about the money. That was a benefit, definitely, but we didn't want to have office 9-to-5 jobs. We got into this because we love being creative, we love performing, and if it came down to it, it's like we'd rather take less money and love our lives, and like we don't need that much. Like we don't. Yeah. It's nice to be a millionaire and to not have to worry about like what's going to happen with your kids, paying your bills, but. Have you ever heard the $70,000 rule? They say anything above $70,000, it doesn't affect your actual happiness. So
I've heard something like that before. Yeah. So I don't need all that money.
So for me, I wasn't relieved immediately. I was pissed because I'm like, there's still so much we had to do. I feel like I was ready to wrestle. I was ready to show people all these other things I can do. But then I was just excited because the last 4 months I was literally sitting at home, getting our house ready, cleaning, meditating, reading, and just trying to pass the time. And I wasn't even allowed to bump or really train. Mm-hmm. So I was just sitting there like, ready to go and perform. And the moment I was released, I'm like, great, I'm going to start to travel again, perform, do everything I've been wanting to do.